Hi, I'm Meridian Baldacci, Director of Strategy at Family Policy Alliance, and we are here at the inaugural Social Conservative Conference, or SoConCon is what we've been calling it, and I'm with Katy Faust. She's the head of Them Before Us, and I'm so excited that you're here with us, Katy. It's good to have you here today.
It is a joy to be here. I'll just take this. I wasn't sure if I should come because I'm like, what is it even going to be like? And then I got here and I was like, I love every single person here. There are so many people doing such good work in this room, so I'm so grateful to join you.
Well, I would love to start off with you just talking about Them Before Us and what it is. I love the name of it. I think it's kind of self-explanatory once you hear what it is, but I think it's cool. Can you talk about that?
The idea is that children should come before adults. And there's really very few areas of American policy today where you actually see that children's rights are elevated above what adults want. I think we saw that the most starkly in the response to the COVID pandemic, where kids were last. Their needs, their rights, everything was the bottom of the totem pole when it came to our pandemic response, and kids have suffered, and will they ever recover? Some won't because of our drastic lockdown policies. But now I actually say that we see that in every marriage and family issue as well. The idea is that when we're talking about the definition of marriage or looking at no-fault divorce or same-sex parenting or reproductive technologies or even what is the purpose of adoption, all of those issues obsessively focus on what adults want. And it's always the kids that suffer when we get those questions wrong. So the idea is children's right to a mother and father needs to come before adult desires. And the good news is that when we can focus on children and elevate their rights, we get the right policy answers 100% of the time.
So you talked about the right to a father and a mother. What does some of that look like? I know you have specific policy principles that you like to talk about within that.
Yeah. Well, what we do is we just say, we begin with, what about the child? We begin with, children have a right to their mom and dad. That is where we start. And then we start looking at all these other issues, right? So if children have a right to their mother and father, then what do we think about marriage? Well, marriage becomes a matter of justice for children because it's the only institute that unites the two people to whom children have a natural right. Well, then what do we think about divorce? Well, divorce halves a child's relationship with their mother or father in the best case scenarios. And so what we know about divorce is it should not happen casually, right? It should be a last resort, a sort of amputation when the gangrene won't stop spreading. And that's not really what divorce is in this country today. Well, what about same-sex parenting? Well, when you're looking at a child with two moms or two dads, you're looking at a child who has lost their mom and dad. That's an injustice. Well, what about the use of reproductive technologies and sperm and donor egg and surrogates? Well, all of those situations intentionally cut a child off from a mother or father to whom they have a natural right, and it's an injustice whether or not the people employing those technologies are single or married or gay or straight. What about adoption? Well, if children have a right to their mother and father, what do we do for the child that has lost that? The child is the client in that equation. Adoption is not a means for adults to get kids. It is a just society's response to children who have lost their parents, and those children deserve a mother and father. So it's sort of a template that you can lay over the top of any complicated or maybe not so complicated marriage and family issue and come up with a solution that not only protects the individual hearts of children, but actually leads to social thriving.
I love that. So I want to ask you about one specific policy that I know you've been working on in this regard, which is the Uniform Parentage Act. I don't think a lot of people know what that is. To be honest, I didn't know what that was until I heard you talking about it. So what is this?
So when we look at threats to children, there are cultural threats when it comes to like, what is the culture saying about kids? And some of those damaging ideas are like, biology doesn't matter, love makes a family, or you can have two moms or two dads. Moms don't matter. Dads don't matter. So there's a big cultural threats. There's technological threats there, and that is massive increase in reproductive technologies that allow you to treat children as disposable and designer products. But there are legal threats to children, and the Uniform Parentage Act is one of the greatest legal threats to children that we are facing today, and most people don't know about it, but it is coming to a state like yours very, very soon. In essence, what the Uniform Parentage Act does is it redefines parenthood. So historically, the way that we have understood parenthood is either you are a parent by biology, you gave birth to that child, you're a genetic parent, or you're a parent by adoption. You went through the needed hoops to prove that you are actually going to provide a safe home for the child that is being placed with you. Those are the two legitimate means to parenthood from a children's rights perspective. What the Uniform Parenting Act does is it introduces a new track for parenthood, and that is the track of intent. If I intend to parent this child, then I can be the parent of the child, right? And in essence, what that means is if you have the money to assemble sperm and egg and womb, then you can walk out of the hospital with a completely unrelated child and full parental rights to that kid. Even though in the hospital room next door, you have the adoptive parents who are walking out of the hospital with an unrelated child who had to go through months of screening and vetting and background checks to prove that they were not going to be harmful, abusive, neglectful to that child, right? So what the Uniform Parentage Act does functionally is it treats children as commodities. Literally, that if you can purchase the child, you get the baby. It sets us back a couple hundred years when it comes to the rights of humans.
So you said this is coming to people's states near them. What can they be doing to be aware of this, to get to know more about this and what it could mean for their state?
Yeah. First of all, I think you need to fight properly, right? This is not a matter of, should the insurance companies cover this kind of thing? And, is this really fair to the adults? No, you need to begin, as with all matters of marriage and family, with what about the kid? First, you begin with the child, their fundamental right to life, to their mother and father, their right to be born free and not bought and sold. Start there, right? Frame this issue as a matter of being for children, not against adults, not against people that are trying to form modern families or struggling with infertility and want to use reproductive technologies. It's not about being against those adults. It is protecting the rights of every child. You need to create a child-centric narrative and campaign where you share the stories of kids who have been intentionally separated from their mother or father because of sperm donation, egg donation, in essence because adult desires were elevated above their right to their mother and father. Look those kids in the face and their suffering and their identity struggles and their mother hunger and their father hunger and their feelings of commodification, and then say, it's really good that we pass these laws that in essence cut off your relationship with your mom or dad. And that's not a case many people can make.
Well, and I think that we're right now living at a time where people so easily do think parenting can look like any combination of things. That's the narrative, right? Is that it could be two moms or it could be two dads. And I know that's part of your story, and we don't have time to get into that here, but if you learn more about Katy, you'll hear this is a part of her story, is you could have two moms or you could have two dads or you can have a single parent home, and kids will grow up. Kids, again, this is part of your story, but what we know is that kids need a mom and a dad. Kids need to have that safe family structure. So I love that you're sharing that message. How can people get involved with your organization?
You can go to thembeforeus.com, go down, subscribe, follow us on social media. A lot of people would ask me, what are you trying to do? And I'm like, global takeover. Global takeover. I want every marriage and family conversation to begin with, what about the child? These are their fundamental rights. And then all adults, single, married, gay, straight, fertile, infertile, conform to the rights of the child, right? And it's a matter of justice. We are talking about justice for children. And we cannot solve any of our major social ills that we are facing today in this country. There will be no social justice until we first secure justice for the individual child, especially in these foundational matters.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Good to talk with you. Katy Faust, everyone. Go check out thembeforeus.com.